Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving podcast. My name is Ashley.
And I'm Katie.
And today we have plant-based reflections and predictions for you. So we actually ended up doing this last year. We did a plant-based predictions for 2022, and we just had so much fun doing it that we wanted to do it again, but kind of with a little twist. We wanted to talk about why we started the podcast, what kind of some highlights from this year that have happened. So we have some fun stories for you. And then we'll talk about what we think some plant-based predictions you can expect to see in 2023.
Because we're fortune tellers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just exciting to guess what's going to happen. We can certainly do that from kind of an educational standpoint, but I think there's been some surprises for us this year, don't you think?
Yes, there definitely have. Yes. And I think one thing that Katie and I say a lot is like, it's so cool to be alive right now during this like plant-based movement where just things are blowing up. Different foods are being created and these shifts are happening. More people are becoming plant-based. Like, I don't know about you listening, but I could just feel like it's such an invigorating time. What do you think, Katie?
Absolutely. Because I was vegetarian like 12 years ago. It was so different. So to see this kind of like, not just growth, but like exponential, like explosion, it just makes things so much easier. So much easier for you guys, so much easier for us, so much easier for our clients. So it's exciting.
Yes. Yeah. So gear up for this podcast too, because Katie and I are actually together in person, which is so rare. So we live about 30 minutes apart. It's a lot easier when we do our podcast together to just do them separately. But today we just have this kind of whole day plan where we are also taking time to kind of plan out what we want the business to look like in 2023. So this is we did this last year too, and it was a very special day for us. So that's also why we're together to record this podcast and to plan out what we're hoping 2023 will look like for the biz.
Yeah.
So how and why we started the podcast. I don't know if you remember this, Katie, but I remember I had been thinking about it for a long time. I went to a business retreat. I come back and I said, Katie, we're starting a podcast.
There was no questions about it. Just like, we're doing it. And I was so excited because I've always been like a podcast nerd, and I was like on board. I was like, okay, let's do it. And then like literally like a couple months later, we did our first episode.
Yep. Yeah. Jack Conyers was our first episode.
Shout out to Jack.
We love Jack. Yeah. He has such a great story too. So, and we miss him. He used to live in the area, but that's all right, Jack. It's okay if you're in Ohio right now. But yeah, so we just kind of jumped right in, did a little bit of research, not a whole lot. And I think we just kind of went with it, which is a good reminder that you don't have to have all the information to move forward with things. I mean, we were kind of like, this is what we feel is right for the business. We went with it, and we definitely made some mistakes along the way. But
yeah, I think we launched a week late accidentally because there was a glitch in the matrix. So but I think we had figured out the important thing, which was what value is this going to provide for, the people that were out there. And so I'm really proud that we've kind of continued with that. Yeah. So, we want to provide you guys with information and inspiration from experts all over the place and just normal people who have really benefited and have had life-changing experiences from going plant-based, just to inspire you.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, we're going to do a call to action at the end of this podcast, because we really would like to hear from you, our very valued listener, what you want to see in 2023, or what you maybe value, or what you get most out of this podcast. That feedback is truly invaluable to us because it helps us shape who we bring on, what we talk about, so that you are being served as best as we possibly can serve you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about some highlights from this podcast, because we had some fun things happen this year that we were not anticipating. So when we first started this podcast, the main reason I wanted this platform to be used for was to help other people share their stories about going plant-based, because there are so many stories out there, but they're not all heard. And so I wanted to create a platform for people to be able to share their stories so that they could inspire other people who are just like you to say, oh yeah, I can go plant-based too because this person did it. And there's just a lot of relatability to that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I'm so excited.
But then some wild things happen. So the first being Dr. B, who's the the Gut Health MD, Dr. Bolsowitz. So we had talked about bringing on some experts, and
major fangirl.
It's true. It's true. He's just such a huge expert in the gut health space and being a plant-based physician and also going to UNC Chapel Hill. Woohoo. There's just like a lot of great things about him that we wanted to bring him onto the podcast to share his expertise. So I think I did a story about we had reached out to him.
Yeah, we had reached out and not gotten any response. Yeah, we were very sad about it.
So then I think I called him out on social media. I tagged him. I said, hey, we were wanting Dr. Bolsowitz to come on and he didn't respond. Is that pressure? Yeah. So then I'm out walking Lena. And then what do you do?
I'm usually behind the scenes of Ashley's Instagram sometimes. So sometimes I'll use it as a resource to kind of find some things that I need. And I saw a DM pop up and I screamed. I was outside on my porch and I screamed. So he had sent a DM and he was like, yeah, let us know when and where. And because he had a new cookbook coming out. And so it was just perfect timing. And it was just a goal. We had put it out into the universe. We had manifested it and it happened. And so it was just the best day. So I immediately called her.
And she was screaming on the phone, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going on?
I don't think you understood what I said first.
And then finally I figured out, oh my gosh, he responded to our story. And so from there we scheduled him, I think for the next day or two. I mean, I remember I reread his Fiber Fueled book in 4 hours because I was I need to make sure I have all my notes together. So yeah, that was pretty big highlight.
Yeah, but I think that was such a good reminder of we're all connected and people put their pants on one leg at a time. And especially in this plant-based space, I just feel there's an automatic connection that you can build with people. It doesn't matter if they're here in Australia and London, or if they are kind of an influencer that you've been following for years and years and years. Just reach out. They might reach back out and talk to you. So that's the beauty of social media can be so hard sometimes, but that's the beauty of it because we're all just a click away.
Yeah, it's true.
That was a great day.
It was a really great day. Yeah, that was a big highlight. So that was our first big guest. So another highlight is definitely having our clients on the podcast whenever they agree to come on, because it's a big deal to come on a podcast. I remember my first podcast interview. I was so nervous. I was kind of mad at myself for agreeing to do it because I was just this is so stressful. I don't know why I would even agree to do this. But after that first interview, I was wow, I could probably do this again. And so if I hadn't said yes that first time, then, doors definitely wouldn't have opened for me to even be doing this now. So when our clients agree to come on, it just means so much to us because we know that coming on a podcast is a big deal for most people. So we really appreciate that.
And it turns out that a lot of them, their stories are the most popular episodes because they're so, especially the ones that have had, major, medical issues and have used plants as medicine. And so those stories are so powerful and end up being some of our most popular episodes. And like Ashley said, when they're brave enough, they're I don't want to do it. But then they kind of conquer that and end up inspiring all these strangers out in the world. That is so, I mean, what a cool thing that we get to do every week. It's really an honor and a privilege. So we had several of those big highlights this year.
Yeah, we definitely did. Yeah. And we hit 50,000 downloads this year. We're approaching 100,000. I had to put it out there because we want it to happen before the end of the year, but if it doesn't, that's also okay. So, but those were some big milestones as well that we hit this year that we're really proud of.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know when you first start, and they kind of trickle in to begin with, and then it starts to build momentum, and you just kind of watch, and that first big number, we were lucky enough to happen relatively quickly after we started because we've only been doing this for about a year and a half. Ashley just has that reach, and the guests that we've been lucky enough to have on have just been that awesome. So almost to 100.
Yes. And we can't thank you enough for not just listening, but also sharing this with friends, family on social media. That means so much to us. Even when you leave us a review, that helps bump up our podcast to get a greater reach. So we can't thank you enough for just being there for us, for listening, and for sharing these podcast episodes as well.
Yes. Actually, I think one of the highlights for me was when we went to our local veg fest and was able to talk to the people we were able to talk to the people that kind of visited us at our booth, and just to hear from local people why they went plant-based or kind of how they identify. We had some kids come by. So it was a short little episode. I think it's only 15 minutes. So we'll link it in the show notes, but it was a really cool kind of different way that we interacted with the public and kind of approached the podcast.
And we do have some exciting guests coming up next year in 2023. One of them being Badass Vegan. So if you're not familiar with him, he has an incredible story, and we've already recorded his interview, and he is so transparent about his journey and everything. So I think that you'll really appreciate just learning more about him and what he does for the plant-based community and everything that he's involved in. He's working on a lot of things, which we talk about. So that'll be a fun one next year for sure. He has a book coming out, and that's part of the reason that we've got him on the podcast.
Another person that we're fangirls of. Oh my gosh, we're so excited to meet him.
Yes. Yeah, because he's been vegan for such a long time. He's been such a pillar in the community, I feel like.
Yeah. I've been watching him. He was one of the first ones I started following. So I think that's why Dr. B was so exciting, because his book Fiber Fueled, I mean, it's like a Bible for a lot of people in the plant-based community. So like you said, Badass Vegan has just been always there, kind of giving his input. And so yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to hear that one.
Yeah.
One of my favorite podcast guests that we've had was Erin Roche, and she was like a Christian minister or something. And I'm not necessarily religious, but she talked about podcasts in this very interesting way that I had never thought about, that it's good to listen to plant-based podcasts and podcasts about wellness to remind yourself why you're doing that. So even if you've already made the transition, listening to stuff like this is kind of a good reminder to why you're doing all this. It kind of gives you evidence, gives you motivation, it gives you inspiration, but also just to remind yourself, oh, I'm doing kind of what aligns with what I find important. And I love that episode. We'll link that one too. That one really stuck out to me. And it was just a good reminder of, what listening to podcasts, how powerful they can be.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. When I first went plant-based, I feel like that really catapulted my journey even further, because I was spending a lot of time in the car. I was commuting a lot for my job at the time, and I was listening to the Ritual podcast. That was a big one because they're so long. It took up a lot of my time.
Yes, I love Ritual.
Yeah. And then there was a podcast called Food Heals. There was just several plant-based related podcasts that really just invigorated me, because I felt pretty isolated and alone on my journey. Nick wasn't plant-based at the time. I definitely did not have any plant-based friends. And so it's tough to navigate that. So I agree that podcasts are really, really important for that.
100%. So we're just glad you're here and that we get to be, one of your podcasts. And, we tell our clients sometimes that in order to learn a new concept or kind of get familiar with a concept, like you have to hear it like at least 12 times. I think they've done research that our crazy human brains were kind of filtering stuff at all times. So, just that listening piece. And like you said, you're just listening to these podcasts. You don't really know what to expect. You never know who's going to inspire you to make a lifelong change. That's why those, our guests coming on, our clients coming on, those just normal everyday people, you have so much power. You're just you don't have to be a superhero. You're just a regular person, but your story, you never know what you're going to say that may change someone's whole life.
Yeah.
She changed my life.
So let's transition to talk about Katie, plant-based trends that we're expecting in 2023. So we both did a little bit of research. We read some articles, which we'll link those in the show notes as well, of just the kind of where we got some of this information. But there's some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. There's also some what I found kind of interesting stuff. So I'll be curious to hear your feedback, or if you have any plant-based trends that you're excited about, definitely tag us on social media so that we can see those. But one thing that we talked about last year was plant-based seafood. And they kind of expected that in 2022 to like really take off. But what they found is actually, yeah, consumers didn't catch on or didn't maybe gravitate towards the plant-based seafood like they were thinking. There's some really like polarizing attitudes towards being pro seafood, pro plant-based seafood, and like anti or just like not really liking the texture. So what they're kind of saying is that there's a lot that needs to be done to make the texture more palatable, to kind of adjust like the flavor, the taste, the profile, all of that. So they're kind of hoping that it'll maybe take off in 2023. I don't know, have you tried some stuff this year? Like some plant-based
Oh,
seafoods?
I think I tried some crab cakes.
Yeah.
They're okay.
Yeah.
Again, I think those serve as great transition foods. So if you are one of those people that feels weird if you're not kind of partaking in, the clam bake, or you go up to where they have the crab cakes, Maryland.
Yeah, maybe have lobster.
You got to give them time, because remember how, God, it took probably plant-based cheese.
Yeah.
Probably they're still working on that.
That's
But
true.
they've been working on that for a good 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe? If the demand's not there, the research may not be there to go as fast to come up with something. But it's interesting that they kind of had this expectation, and then it faltered a little bit.
Yeah. And there is a dire need for plant-based seafood. And part of the reason is because global fish consumption has doubled since 1998, and it's projected to nearly double again by 2050. Yeah. And so they're just saying like the fish population, because it's being severely overfished, they don't know if that's going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So that's why there truly is a need for it. So hopefully, like the vegan cheese,
Yes,
it'll get better.
So this is a trend I like. I like that consumers are more savvy. So I was talking about this with a client the other day about, how many billions of dollars the food industry and their marketing and stuff has behind them. When it comes to money, even the plant-based community can get a little bit swayed into kind of false marketing. So I love this trend that consumers are demanding that these plant-based products, even if they're kind of these transition foods, they're demanding that they have less ingredients, that it's not this kind of long, complicated list of stuff that you can't pronounce. So I think that's a good trend. I think that's, if we demand that, then the people in the lab coats will give it to us.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what they're expecting. They're expecting companies to start trying to use less ingredients, fewer ingredients, maybe ingredients that are more familiar with their customer base. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that takes off. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Another trend for 2023, with cannabis being on the rise and more states legalizing it, is they're expecting for there to be a growing interest for it to be associated with food and beverages, incorporating cannabis into their products. So that's kind of a fascinating thing. I know like different chefs are experimenting with things, but they're expecting that to kind of grow even more, potentially even with like chips and crackers and cocktails, like all of these things, which is kind of wild to think about. So we live in North Carolina. Cannabis is not legal here, but there are some, not even surrounding states. I guess if we wanted cannabis, we'd have to drive pretty far.
Not just cannabis, but also I've seen a lot of news reports lately. We didn't really discuss this, but I've seen on some news report lately about mushrooms and kind of psychedelics and microdosing and like that, helping not necessarily with the food industry, but like helping with sleep and anxiety and stuff like that. So, I find that exciting. I plants are medicine, however you look at it. So, I think that's, who knows what's around the corner,
Yes, I know.
And I just like, that's the benefit of being in this age, is that we have years and years of some of this stuff that they've studied and can look at the kind of the long-term effects. So, and then get to start to experiment a little bit more. So, so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know. All right. Another thing that they think is going to be on the rise is called pulp with purpose. And what that means is basically, how, especially non-dairy milks, there's obviously like a lot of leftover pulp from almonds, oats, just different ingredients that they're using. And so they're thinking that because consumers are also wanting things to be a bit more sustainable, because there is a lot of waste, or there can be with these types of products, that there's going to be more innovations around how to use pulp or like
Oh,
leftover
I love
thing.
that.
Yeah, I thought so
Oh,
too. Apparently there's like trending stuff on TikTok and Instagram where people are doing things with pulp. And so they're kind of hoping that companies kind of gravitate towards that as well.
I know they've done a lot with like vegan leather that way with mushrooms, I think. You said
I
pineapples.
think so.
I think some different papers. So yeah, I love that because that's a big argument, I think, against the plant milk industry if that's an argument that you're for.
Sure.
That's really exciting. I want to read more about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
I think another cool prediction is kelp. Do you know what kelp is? It's like this big vine that grows underwater in salt water. And it has little air pockets that keeps it floating. It's really cool. I used to want to be a marine biologist, so I love kelp. They have found that it grows really quickly, so they can use it for some additional food items, so chips and noodles and fish sauce, because I think it has that really kind of briny flavor. So that's kelp inspired food is gaining some popularity. So I love that people are just sitting around just thinking about how we can use all this different stuff. I mean, who knows? What can we do?
Right? We're like looking around the office. And then the last thing that we found that was potentially going to be a trend in 2023 is like more climate conscious call outs. And what I mean by that is like more eco-friendly packaging, and just consumers just being a bit more aware of what they're buying, who they're buying from, what that company is all about. So especially with our climate going the way that it is, there are a lot of people who are just trying to bring awareness to the fact that what we're doing cannot continue.
I think it's a good point of reference is that that's one of those things that you need to hear a bunch of times in order to kind of take action. And I think I've heard it enough where when I'm sitting on Amazon or sitting at the grocery store, and when you really just take the time to be conscious before you hit buy, to be like, is there another option that doesn't use as much plastic? And then you see like the documentaries about all the trash in the ocean, and like really think about single-use plastic, and like now we're at 8 billion people. Like that's bonkers. And so again, you just have to kind of put it in your consciousness, and once you just take that small step, then you just have that self-awareness to kind of just start to make small changes, and those small changes have big results. So again, we just have to be more savvy customers. Yep.
Yeah, customers, I mean, we create trends, so and make shifts. So we really do.
Absolutely.
What we demand.
Vote with our dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some vegan stats. We did this last year, and I remember just finding it so fascinating. So Katie, what kind of things did you find for us?
They have a lot of research for Veganuary. The Brits over there started Veganuary. So that's where they really have this big push for everybody to go vegan in January. And so they started several years ago, but so they had 250,000 in 2019. So remember, that's pre-COVID. And then 2020, they had 400,000. So big jump. Then 2021, 582. And then 2022, they're expecting, or 2022, they had 629. So it's just that continual, I know, right? It's just that continual exponential like explosions. They said they had 228 countries and territories in 2022. So record highs. So just I know. I mean, that just, for people that live out in rural areas or feel like you're all alone, you might be in your town, but not in the whole, world. Everybody's getting on board. And I just can't wait I hope I'm alive to see it be the norm. I hope I am.
I hope so too. I feel like the way it's going in our lifetime, we're going to see it. So That's so cool. And gosh, see, all it took was some people from the UK creating this trend, Veganuary, whatever it is. And now you have over 500,000 people participating globally, which is so cool. We love our people in the UK.
I know, we love the UK. Again, I keep telling her field trip.
Yeah. I know. You know, it's so funny. I told someone recently, I was like, I really want to go to London. Like, why do you want to go there? And I was like, I want to go for the food. And they're like, I want to get everybody. Yeah. I was like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. But like, you don't understand, the vegan scene over there is like incredible. So y'all are amazing.
We'll talk about some food related stats, but the first one I thought was very interesting is just the Google searches for vegan food near me. 5,000% increase from 2021. 5,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I just think that's crazy. So that means people are looking for, I mean, restaurateurs out there, what are you doing? 5,000%. Come on now. Let's get some vegan restaurants on every corner. So we're here for it.
Yes, we are.
Food sales are growing 3 times faster than total food sales. So vegan food sales are growing 3 times faster than total food sales. I mean, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
And I think vegan food in 2021 that ended with 7.4 billion. So that was up from 5.5 billion in 2019. So 2019, what is that? 3 years, 5.5 to 7.4, even during COVID. Bonkers. Wow. So, you know, those of you who are feeling isolated, 80 million of us globally. So we're just over 1% of the population. So I think they said it's grown about 600% in the last 3 years. Wow. The vegan population.
Really?
So pretty crazy.
That is so crazy.
We're creating an army.
Wow. 8 million vegans globally. That is incredible. That was in 2022.
No, 80
million.
80 million.
Oh my goodness.
I think we're 6 to 8. I think they're probably going to have some better stats at the end of the year. Yeah. But I think we're at 6 to 8 in the US, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. Yeah, Katie, those are some incredible statistics. Just going back, it makes me so excited to be alive right now because so many cool things are happening. I hope you all are excited too.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, like, just in the last few weeks, like, Kraft came out with some Kraft singles.
Yep.
Philadelphia cream cheese is on board with some vegan cream cheese, which is awesome. So these big food giants are recognizing, you know, that they need to get a piece of that vegan pie. Yep. Which I'm stoked about, because that means that our votes with our dollars are working. They're paying attention.
Yep, absolutely. And think about that too, for people who grew up maybe eating Kraft singles or eating Philadelphia cream cheese. I feel like it's an easy transition to be like, oh, I recognize this brand, or I grew up eating it. I think that's just so helpful. It's neat to see brands that were maybe primarily animal-based transitioning over or providing those plant-based products. Yeah. So I think that's really fantastic.
I think we talked about that last year, like, you know, Shark Tank, if you guys love Shark Tank, they always talk about the food space in terms of, you know, product wise. You know, grocery stores are only so big. And so how competitive the market is to get on the shelves. And I think that's something that I really loved seeing this year, is how all the diversity on the shelves. So especially, you know, we've talked about this before, especially at the dairy aisle. I think the vegan cheese aisle is getting more and more diverse. So I can't wait for that to spread, you know, throughout the store as different brands are coming on board.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there used to be just like a vegan section at the grocery store. And now it's just everywhere. Yes. Yep.
It was just some tofu and what else? The tofurkey.
Yep. I remember going to Kroger and it was just like this tiny little section, probably like 10 years ago. And then now it's everywhere. They can't contain it.
Yeah. There's not even a section because it's just everywhere. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, we appreciate you again so much. If there is someone or something that you want to see in 2023, please let us know. I'm going to put my email below. Do you want to put your email below?
Yeah.
We'll put Katie's email below too. So please don't hesitate to email us. You can also even reach out to us on Instagram at Plant Centered Nutrition or at Plant Centered Katie. Yeah, like I said, if there's any guests that you want to see, any particular stories or topics you want to see, we did this probably, it was a year and a half ago. We asked our email list and we tried to check off as much boxes as we could. So we do take this information very seriously because we do want to provide things to you that you really value. So
yes. And if you're out there, if you're listening and you've transitioned to plant-based and you have a cool story,
seriously,
don't think that it's lame. Don't think that it's boring. We want to hear it. And it is powerful. It has the power to change people's lives. So, what's the worst that can happen?
It's true.
Right? You just get to talk to this lady. That's a good afternoon in my book.
Yeah, we did. We asked people on Instagram, if they had a story that they would be willing to share. And we got such an incredible response. And some of those stories are just so impactful. You never know the kind of impact that it's going to create. So yeah, if you would also want to be on the podcast, definitely email us, let us know. We'll send you a link. We'll book a time to record. It's very chill. It's very easy, so just like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Very laid back, nothing to be, scared of. So
don't need special equipment. You just need Zoom or Zoom, FaceTime, whatever you got. That's all you need.
Yeah.
You just need a little camera.
Yep. That's it. So, all right, y'all. Well, again, we appreciate you. Happy New Year. Hope we have a great time going into 2023 and we will catch you next year.
Yay. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Until next time, keep thriving.